With that being said, consider then that while the old law is no longer necessary for our ticket to heaven, it is still applicable with regards to our health and living as God's holy, set-apart, chosen people. Do you struggle to stay consistent with healthy eating and just want food decisions to be easy, guilt-free, and sustainable? You're in the right place. I'm Chelsea, nutritionist and fitness coach who overcame restrictive yo-yo dieting and body image insecurities using simple nutrition tools, all backed by biblical principles. And now I help women like you find that same freedom with food so you can feel confident in the look and health of your body for decades to come. I'm ready to dive in with you. So open your notes app and let's go. In case you missed it, yesterday was my Healthy Meals Made Ridiculously Simple masterclass. And golly, did we have a good time. But I know schedules get busy, and heck, sometimes we just plain old forget things. I've totally been there. If you are planning to join the masterclass but didn't quite make it, fear not. The replay is available, but only through this Sunday, May 24th. So go to coachrain.com/masterclass, enter your email, and then I will send you the link to the replay directly. That's coachrain.com/masterclass for the replay video, only available through this Sunday. And now, welcome to Nutrition for Christian Women. What does God say we should and shouldn't eat? You know, I think so often in life we question what God is telling us or what He wants us to do. And even reading the Bible, I think, at least I feel like so much of it is metaphorical and illustrative that I often finish reading a passage with more questions than I had when I started. But when it comes to stewarding our bodies by what we eat, God is actually very direct and clear, which is something I really didn't know until I started investigating biblical nutrition in order to write my book, The Guide to Eating Biblically in a Modern World. So if you find today's topic interesting, I think you would actually really enjoy my book. It's a relatively short read, and you can grab your own copy at coachrain.com/book. So let's get into it. The first place that we see God addresses the topic of food is actually pretty early on. It's in the creation story, Genesis chapter 1, verses 29 through 30, which says, "Then God said, 'Look, I have given you every seed-bearing plant throughout the earth and all the fruit trees for your food. And I have given every green plant as food for all the wild animals, the birds in the sky, and the small animals that scurry along the ground. Everything that has life.' And that is what happened." So in this passage, God had already created man and woman and told them that the seed-bearing plants and fruit trees from all over the earth are what He gave us for food. At this point, we're actually vegetarians. That's phase 1 of what God says we should eat. Then a couple of chapters later, He addresses it again. Turning to Genesis chapter 9, verses 1 through 3, God is speaking to Noah. This is immediately after the flood recedes. And we read, "Then God blessed Noah and his sons and told them, 'Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth, all the animals of the earth, all the birds of the sky, all the small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the fish in the sea will look on you with fear and terror. I have placed them in your power. I have given them to you for food, just as I have given you grain and vegetables.'" Did you catch the difference? That passage is awfully similar to the Genesis 1 passage, but this time, God includes animals as part of the list of things we can eat. This is substantial. Just think about everything that this now encompasses. Yes, beef, poultry, salmon, but also elk, ostrich, quail, rabbit, on top of all of the plants. It's an abundant list. So when people tell me that they can't eat healthy because it's just too limiting, I point them to this. And to make it simple for my nutrition clients, I give them this phrase to memorize as kind of a litmus test to see if something is healthy or not, or what I like to call real food versus fake food. And it goes like this. If it once walked, flew, swam, or grew, it's real. Anything else, it's fake. And we don't need fake in our bodies, not our precious, beautiful bodies that the Lord gave us. That phrase, the walk, flew, swam, grew phrase, comes directly from what we learn in Genesis about what our Creator says is meant for our food. And I think it makes things really straightforward when questioning, what should I eat? Or is this healthy? Now, here's the part that may feel controversial. God actually amends this list a little bit later in Deuteronomy. When he is giving Moses the law, the old law in which God's people, the Israelites, are supposed to follow, which was necessary after the fall and sin entered the world, God makes some stipulations with certain items on that list that we just read. So Deuteronomy chapter 14, we're talking about ceremonially clean versus unclean animals. Verses 4 through 8 say, "These are the animals you may eat: the ox, the sheep, the goat, the deer, the gazelle, the roe deer, the wild goat, the addax, the antelope, and the mountain sheep. You may eat any animal that has completely split hooves and chews the cud. But if the animal doesn't have both, it may not be eaten. So you may not eat the camel, the hare, or the hyrax. They chew the cud, but they do not have split hooves, so they are ceremonially unclean for you. And you may not eat the pig. It has split hooves, but does not chew the cud, so it is ceremonially unclean for you. You may not eat the meat of these animals or even touch their carcasses." Now, I won't read the whole chapter because it is a bit lengthy, but I encourage you to read the full chapter on your own. That's Deuteronomy chapter 14. As you can see, God put an asterisk by the aforementioned animals that he gave us for food. Now, let's be clear. The law says that we are not to eat any ceremonially unclean animals. What exactly does that mean? Well, as God's people, we are to be set apart and be made holy, which means we have certain boundaries that others may not. To be considered ceremonially clean means that you are fit to worship and enter holy places of God's presence. That cleanliness taught us holiness. God was showing us that he is holy, completely set apart, and approaching him required intentional preparation. In addition to this, many sources of uncleanness are connected to death, decay, or loss of life, and God is associated with life. So the clean versus unclean created a symbolic contrast. Hence why certain animals, like vultures, that are connected to consuming dead or decaying matter, are considered unclean. But the point I want to emphasize is that lots of the cleanliness requirements of the old law are for hygiene and health. We are made entirely of the food that we eat and what our mothers ate, after all. So eating plants and animals that are healthy themselves is critical for our health. Eating animals that feast largely on rotting carcasses is an excellent way for us to get ill as humans. In God's wisdom and intelligent design, he included these stipulations in the law. Not just to be harsh or mean, but to protect us. Now, let's get to the part that you're probably already thinking about. But Chelsea, we are no longer under the old law. Jesus brought the new covenant, and we are free from those obligations, right? Yes. Big fat yes, that is true. And even in the book of Mark, chapter 7, verses 18 through 23, it says, "Don't you understand either?" Jesus asked. "Can't you see that the food you put into your body cannot defile you? Food doesn't go into your heart, but only passes through the stomach and then goes into the sewer." By saying this, he declared that every kind of food is acceptable in God's eyes. And then he added, "It is what comes from inside of you that defiles you. For from within, out of a person's heart, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, wickedness, deceit, lustful desires, envy, slander, pride, and foolishness. All these vile things come from within. They are what defile you." So, doesn't that negate everything we just talked about in Deuteronomy? Well, here's the thing. The old law served multiple purposes. One, they were guidelines for how to live life as God's chosen people, and be fruitful. And 2, they are the rituals needed to atone for our sins and be made right with God. That second part no longer applies thanks to Jesus' ultimate sacrifice. So if you accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, you are no longer under the old law, but rather enter into the new covenant or the new promise where Jesus paid the price on your behalf. Beyond incredible. Cling to Jesus and you are good with God. However, Jesus also says in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 5, "Don't misunderstand why I have come. I did not come to abolish the law of Moses or the writings of the prophets. No, I came to accomplish their purpose. I tell you the truth, until heaven and earth disappear, not even the smallest detail of God's law will disappear until its purpose is achieved." So if you ignore the least commandment and teach others to do the same, you will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But anyone who obeys God's laws and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. With that being said, consider then that while the old law is no longer necessary for our ticket to heaven, it is still applicable with regards to our health and living as God's holy, set-apart, chosen people. Again, I wrote a whole book on this called The Guide to Eating Biblically in a Modern World, where I go into much more detail. So you can order your copy directly from my website, coachrain.com/book, to dive deeper with me. Let's nerd out about biblical nutrition together. In the book, I also include some Bible-approved simple recipes, which I have gotten rave reviews about. So it is definitely worth the read if you ask me, and I am not a reader. And once again, if you missed yesterday's live masterclass, I have made the replay available through this weekend. So even though you missed the cash prize for joining live, you can still get all of the other goodness at coachrain.com/masterclass, where you can put in your email, and I will send you the link to the replay. But don't wait, it is only available until Sunday, May 24th. Again, that's coachrain.com/masterclass to catch the recording of Healthy Meals Made Ridiculously Simple. Until next time, sis. Toodles. I pray this episode was helpful to you, my friend. If so, could you do me a massive favor and take 30 seconds to write a review? This is the best way to bless me big and help more people learn just how simple eating healthy consistently can be. And if you want more value-packed info from me, head to coachrain.com and sign up for the weekly harvest. My weekly emails filled with recipes, how to use food as medicine, biblical nutrition, and more. That's coachreign.com for all the goods. Blessings until next time, sis. Toodles.